Okay, so again, before leaving the floor to Emília, I would like to introduce you to her very briefly. Emília holds a PhD in sociology and is a researcher at Communication and Society Research Center at University of Minho. Currently, she is the director of the PhD program in sociology. Her academic interests focus on the social study of time, temporality, as well as participatory social research methods. She has been involved in various research projects addressing phenomena such as mobility, gender, migration, memory, identity, and more recently, artificial intelligence and society. So, Emília, I can leave the floor to you, but maybe I can briefly also say this. She will present her research today entitled Timescapes as a Valuable Concept to Study Transnational Lives, Insights from Research with Young Women. Okay, now the floor is really yours.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to try now to put my presentation. I think that I can put it directly from the PowerPoint. Yes, no.
Yes. On the upper right side, there's a share button.
Yes. First of all, I want to say thank you for this opportunity to have this meeting about time, and with Linda. I love your presentation. In fact, in a way, I think that what I'm going to say is complementary to your presentation. So, because I'm going to focus mainly on a concept, even though presenting some empirical information from a project that we are developing. So I'm just trying to put the presentation, try to find it. Sorry, I saw it, but now it's lost somewhere. So it should be more. It should be easier. Yes, Ekran. I think I can share the screen. Yes.
Yes. Definitely.
Like that? Yes. Are you seeing anything?
I don't see it yet, but maybe because of my connection, maybe some other people see it.
And now? No?
I still cannot see.
We see just this shared screen, not your presentation. I think you can, you should do it again.
Okay, I'm trying to see if I have here the file, the PDF. Maybe it's better. Normally I don't have problems, but now I'm not seeing it. Sorry.
It's okay.
Should be here. Yeah, I think it is here. Okay. Are you seeing now?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going now to put it in form. Yes?
Yes.
So that's what I was saying. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm going to focus mainly on this concept of timescapes. This is also part of a project that we are developing, me and Liliana Castañeda, which is a colleague from Guadalajara University in Mexico. This is not a funded project, so we are doing that as we have time to do that. But in fact, we are using and exploring this concept of timescapes applied to this specific project concerning transnational young women. women. So I'm going to focus on that, focus on the concept, especially on the concept, and then give you some information that in fact are insights on the exploration that we are doing. In a way, I was listening to Linda, and as I said in the beginning, I think that is somehow complementary in some aspects, and interestingly, the results are in correspondence with what Linda presented, I think. So, in fact, all this idea comes from this area of studies, time studies, that aggregate not only sociology, anthropology, but also economy, psychology, and many other areas. My focus is mainly on social anthropological dimensions because of my own educational path. And in what concerns transnational experiences, why does it is so important to deal with time and space? Because transnational experiences happen actually in time, in space, of course, in space, but they also happen in time in many ways, involving many layers. Some of them non-visible, some of them less visible. Among other variables that we can work about time and temporalities and in relation to transnational experiences, we have this very strong and very important structural variable, which is gender. Of course, always intersecting with others, as also Linda showed in her investigation. But in fact, we have this confluence of different multiple temporal borders that arise, especially if we are analyzing, in this case, this is the study we are developing, the case of young women. So this multiple temporal border arise in young women's transnational lives, experiencing related to gender role timing, family expectations, language learning, and educational aspirations. That's one big point that we find out in our research, very, very important. Fertility and reproductive calendars, caregiving rhythms, and the obligation to give time to loved ones in both sending and receiving countries. I just stress the idea of giving because it's related to care, but in fact, in the studies, social studies of time, we deal with this concept of giving time, rewarding in time, storing time to give then earlier on our lives. Like, parents give time to their children, and then when they are old, they expect that their children give them time back. And that's very important for the case of transnational experiences for men and women, but especially for women. It's one issue in Portugal, in Portuguese. So there are a lot of questions that we can do around time studies and women transnationalities. I don't present here the studies, but actually there are a lot of studies already on time and migration and time and gender. But I want to stress these questions because they are very important for developing our own study. How do women experience and narrate time across borders? What is the impact of bureaucratic time on identity formation and belonging? How do gender expectations of care, giving time, shape daily rhythms and long-term planning? And how is migration lived and suspended? Time, a pause or a cycle? I'm going to try to give you the exploration of the interviews that we made already, but this is not a finished study. So not to confuse here, these are the main questions that we can do around time studies and study of women transnationalities. But where do we put the concept of timescapes? In fact, timescapes is a concept inside the time studies developed mainly by Barbara Adam, that developed and used this concept inclusively to work on the relationships of sociality between society and environments. But then she developed that as like a theoretical framework to analyze, to study time everywhere in any case. And how can we, but she didn't explicitly analyze the transnationalities. So how can we use this concept for also thinking methodologically to in our studies and to especially to study women's times in transnational with transnational lives. In fact, in terms of definition, and I'm going really to stop here a little bit, in terms of definition, and this is a definition given by Barbara Adam herself, she says, as the structural level of understanding, time involves number of irreducible elements, the combination of which I have called timescapes. The scape part of the concept acknowledges that we cannot embrace time without simultaneously encompassing space and matter, that is, without embodiment in a specific and unique context. Thus, a timescape perspective acknowledges this spatiality, materiality, and contextuality, but foregrounds the temporal side of the interdependency. So it's very important methodological in my view, because one of the big difficulties that we have is to actually use methods, techniques to study time. And then another question or another difficulty that we face is how do we present our data focusing on time? And this concept makes this relation how in a very, I think, very objective manner in that sense. Timescapes refer to these main dimensions, says Barbara Adam. This also quoting her in original terms. She says that timescapes are composed of these different dimensions of time. Time frame that refers to that answers to these questions. In what time frame are we? Are we speaking about a day, a year, a lifetime? Are we speaking about a generation, an historical, geological epoch? I want to stress mainly the idea of generation. This is very important for the case of studying women's transnational lives. Temporality, that refers to this question of how do we live processes? How do we go through this process of aging, of growing, of living irreversibility? In terms of aging, is very important. And that's also relevant for migration studies. If we consider that considering age, we have some, we take decisions, and we also give up from having plans or from having taking another decisions. Timing, that refers to when can I do something? Synchronization, that refers to synchronizations. to have the sensation of being in time or in a wrong time. The dimension of tempo, that refers to pace, to the rate of change, to velocity, to intensity. The duration, that refers to this, to the extent, to the temporal distance, to the horizons of no duration, can mean instantaneously, something that is instantaneous, or a moment in a time. The sequence, in what order, succession, priority, no sequence. How, what is the order of things? Do we have an order of things in our lives? And then the temporal modalities, that refers to this common idea of having the past, present, and future, and how our actions and dreams are on this line between past, present, and future. I give you here an elaboration, an adaptation of the Timescape concept from Barbara Adam, that was made by Marcos Lundström when he makes a study about the pandemics, time in pandemics. And in fact, what he did in this adaptation is to reduce these dimensions to time frame, to time order, to tempo, and to timing. And then that all these four dimensions compose the timescapes. And the timescape, so normally we are in these timescapes here when we speak to people, when we do interviews, we are in this timescape, apparently, yes. But in fact, this timescape is being modeled, shaped by horizon of expectation and the space of experience. This is not new. This is also an adaptation from Koselleck's view on historical time and this relationship between horizon of expectation based on the space of experience. But in fact, what is interesting is that this colleague, Lundström, reunites these two concepts and actually improves makes more objective this model, this analytical model to study time, and to study time in both a biographical plan and the daily life plan. So that's why Christopher Groves, which is works also with Barbara Adam, tells a timescapes includes all the ways in which social practice and structure are regularized and coordinated across different dimensions of temporal order, including, for example, tempo, what constitutes good or bad timing for a practice, intensity or activity, and linear or cyclical temporality. Importantly, objective time as measurable and as measured by devices such as clocks represents only one dimension of socially constructed time. Experiences of time as duration, as remembrance, or anticipation are equally important. So, what are the contributions in my view, for the study of transnational lives and transnational lives of women? Especially this idea that timescapes give us this ability to work with the time in a multidimensional way, putting all together these different temporal layers. Then there is this issue of power and inequality, especially concerning the institutional clocks, this constructed time that is very important, that are very important for legislative and bureaucratic times, and that constraints people's lives in lives and bodies, yes, as Linda said. Then this idea of bringing also here for this picture, for this analysis, the link between past, present, and future, and how the present is linked to these different two horizons. And then there is another that probably is the more we work a lot with this dimension of liminality and waiting. And this concept also brings that when refers to time and tempo. So, and allows us to go into deep in these waiting worlds, not as empty gaps, but as charged temporal spaces. We can then speak a little bit about that and how that it works. The fact is, there are some methodological implications to work with this framework. It's not actually impossible to work with quantitative, but actually, and following also the line of the authors that I mentioned, in fact, the best methodological choice will be always the qualitative. We could do time diaries, but it's an option. We did not. It's difficult to implement, but it's possible. And then we have this choice for narrative interviews and participative workshops or participative focus groups. Actually, we did only, until this moment, narrative interviews, following a guide, a script, that actually is based on those dimensions that I mentioned before, linked to transnationality. And I only have information to present you, as I said in the beginning, is still in the beginning also. For interviews, these are not their names, it's a pseudonym, okay. These young women come are in Portugal at this moment, from Brazil, Guinea-Bissau, Nigeria, and Angola. And they came, then I'm going to speak about that. So they came mostly in the first moment because they wanted to study in Portugal and then develop their job opportunities. But when they arrived to Portugal, they faced actually a lot of difficulties in managing and synchronizing all these levels of time and demands. And in fact, I'm going to speak now about that. So only not to be a lot of time here, what we did was actually, as I said, to use in the first moment the same dimensions that I referred to. So the time frame, temporality, time, and so on. Then we began to analyze the information and try to aggregate these dimensions in other types of other concepts, also refer to time studies like rhythms and biographies. It's not. I put that here because it's still an insight. What counts is the dimension. What I can say is that actually works to make these. I don't know if I can refer to these is a thematic content analysis, but in fact is only to illustrate, because after to write about time frames, temporality, or timing, we can write about that in a separate way, but we need to count with all of the other dimensions, because if we do not do that, it lost the meaning. Okay, so that's That's the issue of using Timescapes concept, because we are secure that we are relating for each of the topics that we want to address different dimensions of time, not all together at the same moment, but one or two, maybe they are more linked between each other. So I'm not going to speak all about that, but I'm going to present in order to finalize again this model, this Timescape framework. And what we can conclude is that as I was saying, the dimensions that are more structuring of they structure the most, they are more important to structure what these young women say about their lives and their experience, the transnational experience, the lives, is the time frame. As I said in the beginning, this idea of a generation time, something that comes with the age, but since she was born as a girl, and then the timing, how to manage daily life in a way that this daily life actually responds to that time frame. This is what we find. Of course, the tempo and time order are very important, but these are actually those that until this moment were more structuring. They give more structure to the narratives. And why? I put here some information, some conclusions, because all these narratives speak about unequal access to legal and institutional processes. Like Linda was saying, I don't know if I'm always interpreting all that you said, but actually what we find is that these lives of women, daily life, is actually very modeled, shaped by the day of going to ask for authorization, the time that is going to take to have a document, and so on, for them and for their kids or for their family, other members of the family. This is one of the
Emilia, I'm
main
so
points.
sorry to interrupt,
Okay.
but maybe
I'm just
it will
going
be
to
better
stop.
to.
Then
Okay.
this idea of the emotional weight of time spent apart from the loved ones, and the difficulty of aligning personal aspirations with institutional rhythms. I want to focus mainly on this idea that they come also with this project of having better jobs and studying for having better jobs is the order, is the sequence. But what happens is that they began to work because they need money to survive, and then they don't have clock time to study. So what we find, at least in 2 cases, was this idea of migration lived as a suspended time and also as a cycle, as a repetition. That's why 2 of them say that maybe they will return to Brazil in this case. And because time passed, and they did not have the possibility to synchronize their projects in terms of education and in terms of job bettering the job opportunities. So they want to come back, but it's not this not so linear. It's a very complex decision, very conflicting a decision. Then we have also one important conclusion, and I end here, is that these women, they come to Portugal, they want to move, they want to develop, as I said, their education, but actually they don't actually say that their families actually were so open to that possibility. They have also to manage that tension between coming to Portugal and leaving their families while being a woman, socially with socially attributed roles. So thank you very much. I'm sorry. Thank you. That's the finalization.
Thank you so much, Emília. Thank you both Linda and Emília, for sharing your works with us today. And now I can open the floor. We can open the floor for the discussion and questions.
I'm trying to get out.